Top stream's about 120 feet.
But I'm just wondering why I thought we were talking about subsidence on the dual phase.
Well, but this will, because they're gonna dewater that, it's gonna give us the whole soil column.
So you're gonna try to dewater that one, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what Mark was describing.
Similar to what you-
But again, I wanna make sure.
I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to understand what you're gonna do, that's all.
Yeah.
You're gonna,
Well, let me help with that, because I think there's still some mixing or confusion about what dual phase was intended to be and what we're proposing with this, I'll call it passive water production. We have relief well 1, right? That was the first one that we actually pulled water out of at very low volumes, maybe 1 to 2 gallons a minute.
OGRW1?
OGRW1.
Yeah,
Always
yeah,
get
about
that
a gallon a minute now.
About a gallon a minute. And what happened when we started that process, we saw about a 20, 30, maybe a 40% increase, Dr. Eads? Is that?
About 100%.
It was, okay, it almost doubled. So that was an eye opener. But that's a unique well. That's a well that's produced the bulk of the gas that we've recovered. But it's led us to conclude, since we're dealing with gas that's right on the cusp of the hydrostatic pressure in the top of the MRA, what we concluded is that maybe if we just lift a little bit of that water out of that wellbore, we can get gas production to come in. 38 was one of those wells that was in an area where we had bubbling, we had indicators that it should be producing, but it never did, never would. And because it's on property that we now own, and it's in an area where we know we've got gas, or should have gas, then we want to trickle some water out of that well too and see what happens. But dual phase vapor extraction is a totally different animal.
Okay.
And when we were talking about dual phase, we were thinking, what, 50, 100 gallon a minute?
okay, but, I hate everybody here, but isn't that supposed to be, isn't the high point over here and it slopes that way? Like, probably 130 something feet over there? And like
It's getting deeper.
109 feet here?
Okay,
So in order for gas to get out there, don't we have to have 30 feet of gas right here?
No.
How does it do that? How does it travel down?
It tends to follow it, okay? Because you're flowing through sand, it's thick over here, everybody knows that, and it's getting thinner to the north, okay, but it's still following the clay and sand.
The gas is found,
Yeah, the bottom of the sand is shaped like a dome, just like the top is.
so the gas is also shaped like a dome.
Yep, right in this area, yes. And what 38 is, it appears ORW 38 is kind of on the north edge of that. And every time they dewatered that for 2 or 3 hours, the gas pressure's gone up, which indicates if you dewater and sustain that, it's very likely they'll be able to get a fair amount of gas out. And that's what this test is designed for. Well, because they're going to be lowering the water level in that well, we decided that if you do a level survey around that, you can get consolidation and subsidence data right around that, and then you can use real-world Bayou Corn community data to update any future consolidation calculations.
All right, so if the Sportsman area, in this area, has the largest volume of gas, and we've got, you've got 2 wells in here, and, well, a third, well, you got 4, and then across. Why aren't you sampling subsidence in that area?
Because these right now are not being dewatered, okay?
But why is it that you don't establish a benchmark so that you can see what, if you got
You're
subsidence?
talking establishing a survey benchmark. Actually, there's survey points all along the road through here.
Okay.
And those are surveyed. Fenstermacher does it periodically, DOTD does it, we got,
But that's,
Are they any down Sportsman's Drive in the community?
Yeah, they do. Fenstermaker comes down here.
I saw Fence to make it all a couple of times.
They don't join us on your
I don't know if they have established them or not.
No, they did, because he told me there's no subsidence down our neighborhood
yeah,
yet.
what they're doing,
From
and I don't know if it's Fenstermacher or Miller, but the geoprobe wells that are installed around the community, the shallow wells, each one of those are also surveyed.
Okay, so that's another one.
And they're using those instead of putting a new benchmark, they're just using that because they're all cemented in. they do that periodically, I can't
They
remember.
did it a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
Point out 38 on the map, I don't know if everybody knows where 38 is.
What's the benchmark we're gonna use on that one?
Well, this one, the work plan is they're actually gonna establish a network of survey points around this.
In that 1 yard?
When they do the dewatering test, there'll be a whole, system that Miller will put in. They'll probably put in rods, and then they'll go back to each rod. And it's the same type of survey technique they've used on the south berm, and on the south berm, it worked really well. Because we could see as it was starting to creep down, because it's very accurate, the way they do it. It's within like 100th of a foot. And that's what they're gonna be doing around here. And then when they move to 21, same thing.
I might also mention that we still have the Insar program in place that's coming up on its, I guess its first annual report. I don't know that it's been released yet, but this is a satellite-derived process where very frequently, I don't know the exact number, but there are satellites that circle and they're taking elevation readings off of surfaces that they can see. It doesn't work in water, but it'll work on a rooftop or a roadway or, you know, a building. Because we had areas around the sinkhole that were swamped, we went in and put artificial reflectors. And so now we've got probably 6 or 8 months of that data. And we're told that the accuracy of that process is better than the process we're using now. And we're committed to continuing that process. So that'll be released probably within the next month.
Like all the houses in the community, we actually had a preliminary report last fall, just kind of a proof of concept. All the homes in the community and stuff, they use the roofs as reflectors. And so you get a very, in the community itself, you get a very dense network of subsidence or lack of subsidence depending on what's going on. And so when that's reported out, essentially, you'll see like all the roofs and stuff in here will actually have dots on them because that's what they use.
What about treetops?
Pardon?
Can they detect the elevation of treetops?
No.
Moving and growing, and, you know, trees grow an inch in a year.
That's why Texas brine, you see these, I guess they're aluminum or something out in the swamp on poles. They're a circular thing and they kind of look like they've got a funny hat on them. Those are the Insar reflectors.
Right.
So in the swamp, you have to put up something that its microwave beam can bounce off of. So anyway, subsidence, I'm here to tell you, with the 38 tests and the 21 tests, Texas Brine's going to get some real data in the community that we can use to see further, better evaluate what's going on, because you need data here. Up till now, it's been modeling, pulling numbers from various places. Here, we're going to get data in the community.
Thank you, Gary. Is there anybody, any other questions or comments?
Who has information on what's going on in Grand Body? That would be John.
I can give you some of it.
And I'm just curious as to what entering wetlands mean.
Well, it's a fishing tournament when I came in here.
Yeah, what's the sign? Wetland, enter wetland.
All right, and I've been speaking to both companies.
They moved the pipeline location or something?
Well, they are, both companies, Acadian Gas as well as Cross Texas, now started their reroutes. They finally received their permits, started the reroutes. Acadian's about 2 weeks ahead of Cross Texas. The MPG site that you see in the corner, 69 and 70, they're doing the Acadian line. They have started clearing right-of-ways. They actually did cut both of their lines this past Saturday. Did a 15-foot cold cut and took out a 15-foot section of line, and have now started to put in the line. They blocked it in, now starting to put in the line, clearing the right-of-ways, and they both expect about 3 months of work. The Cross Tex line in their staging area is next to Shelby Goday's shop.